Welcome to a Starter and a Chaser podcast with your hosts, Jon Passow and Mari Heaney.
You know, people with beards are just people without beards with beards.
Does that mean we're one and the same?
We are. Oh, hi. Welcome to The One, a new episode of a Starter and a Chaser podcast. I am Jon Passow.
And I'm Mari Heaney.
And Mari is filling in for Joe Clarke. And you can find Mari here on Instagram at
drams.with.mari.
And Mari, I am super excited.
Yeah.
Because we are going to be tasting something from my favorite Scotch distillery, Bruichladdich Octomore.
Woohoo.
This is version 11.1. Oh, and I'm so excited. I can't
Very
wait.
exciting.
I can't wait. Bruichladdich, tell us about them.
So it was started in 1881 by the Harvey brothers and revived in 2001.
So it was kind of a defunct brewery that went under disrepair and no longer produced.
It's true. But it's back and stronger than ever. Thank you very much, Bruichladdich. We are grateful to have you back on board.
Yes. And actually, Mari and I reviewed their Botanist, which is their gin,
We did.
last month, I think it was. And you mentioned that they had a documentary out.
They do. It's wonderful.
And we, I went and found it on YouTube. It is on YouTube, and it's called The Whiskey Dream, Bruichladdich Distillery.
Bring a box of tissues. It really is. It's an emotional roller coaster.
Absolutely. And it's short, too. It's about 30 minutes, so it's nice and easy to digest in these fast times. Now, the Octomore. We've got it in front of us.
I mean, I don't even need to pick it up to catch what's on that nose. So wonderful. It's just a dream. I love Islay Scotch.
I would say
Nice and
that's
rich.
up there for me, too.
Yeah.
Isla.
Touch of peppercorn again.
Okay.
What else? There's a sweetness to it. But it's not a caramel and it's not a honey. Almost a molasses sweetness of like very deep, dark, rich.
Oh, okay. Do you know what muscovado sugar is?
I don't. Tell me about that.
Muscovado sugar is kind of like basically the least refined sugar. So when they pull the sugar out of the sugar cane, it's got a very high molasses content at first, and then that's kind of stripped out for like brown sugar, and then almost completely stripped out for table sugar. Muscovado sugar is like super sugar in the raw, and it's very, very high molasses content. And if you're like not quite at molasses, but still at brown sugar, like somewhere in between, I would say that's probably like muscovado sugar.
Yeah, absolutely.
That might be reminiscent of.
Yeah, and of course the peat is there. Obviously. Sorry, I didn't mean to skip over that.
I was wondering. I'm like, where is she not picking up peat? This might be a problem. Now, the Octomore series by Bruichladdich is the world's most peatiest, smokiest Scotch and whiskey out there. This particular one is 5 years. It's 118.8 proof and has a phenol PPM of 118.8. Now, I think this is a good time to explain exactly what that means.
Yeah, absolutely. So ppm stands for parts per million. So it's just a good way of identifying off the bat how much peat you're looking at if you're unfamiliar with the creation of Scotch. When they soak the grain, they spread it out over a malting floor, and they take peat that is harvested locally to each distillery, and they set the peat out underneath that malting floor and ignite it. And it's the smoke that rises from that peat that flavors and colors the mash. And that's, how we get these localized differences and variances in Scotch. So looking at Islay, obviously, is going to be our most heavily peated traditionally. And Octomore just pulls right through that. It just blasts the competition away.
And the neat part about the PPM system is it's actually really just for the distiller's purpose. the PPM that they start with isn't actually the PPM that's going to be in the final product. So like unmalted grain has a PPM of 0. A lot of things like Lafroig and your other Islay, a lot of your other Islay scotches around 40 ppm. This is this is 139.6, and their version 8.9. This is version 11.1. We're having version 8.9 is the world's smokiest scotch at 309 ppm. But that's what you're using at the mashing time. So mashing and fermentation is going to drop that. Distillation strips a lot of the ppms out. So it doesn't necessarily indicate how smoky something's going to be in the end. And different areas and different maltsters are going to produce different types of smoke. The Lafroig tends to be kind of cigarette.
Right.
And this is kind of, the Port Charlotte is more campfire. So
yeah, John's right.
super
Don't
complex.
be intimidated by that ppm number, because there are so many nuances in between each scotch. You're not just going to drink smoke. There's all sorts of different things happening in each glass and in each bottle.
Well, I think we need to make this happen in our mouths, because I'm dying for it.
Cheers.
Sláinte. Whoa. That's cool. Wow. At first, it's like a little bit of tropical fruit, a little bit of honey, and almost instantly it's campfire, and it just it's billowing smoke as it grows on your palate. What do you pick up on the first taste there?
Yeah, more of that dark, rich sweetness, but like you said, so quickly it turns savory. And what is that on the back end?
I'm getting something too, and I'm trying to identify.
It's like a little bit caramely, but so savory. I mean, it just sits down in the center of your tongue.
Mushrooms. I'm getting like this
Mushrooms.
earthy mushroom, like you take like a baby bella or a portobello, and you slice it and you cook it a little bit so it's nice and soft, but it still has that fungusy, dark, woodsy note. I get that on the back end of this.
Sure.
And that's just my first sip. I mean, this is this usually, I take 2 sips and acclimate my palate. On the first sip, I'm getting so many flavors. This is extremely complex.
Yeah, that umami definitely is in there. And then a little bit, just like a little touch of spice on the tip of your tongue.
It's almost kind of like a rye spice. And it's definitely not the heat. I mean, this does not taste 118 proof. This is like 100 proof. They integrate the heat, I've noticed, really well. Like the other ones they have, I think, are 100 proof for both of these offerings. So they do good stuff with high alcohol.
A little bit of cocoa too, at the very, very end.
Ooh, cocoa. I need to go back in there.
Yeah, but all sorts of earthy things, allspice, umami, cocoa, like very rich flavors that are just grounded in, as you were saying earlier, walking through that forest.
Yeah. God, that smoke is just, it's beautiful, but it's not cigarette ashtray or cigar. I mean, it's like a campfire. I mean, it is really campfire-y, which is actually what I got on their heavily peated Port Charlotte 10 was kind of that campfire note.
Yeah.
And a lot of our viewers might be wondering what the 0.1 is about. I was wondering that myself. Turns out the different .1 or .2 signifies what kind of barrels that they've been finished in. So it actually has a meaning. The 0.1 is nothing but ex-bourbon casks. The 0.2 is not bourbon, ex-American whiskey. The 0.2 is ex-American whiskey and wine casks, and it goes on and on, so on and so forth. So just because you have an Octomore doesn't mean you're going to get the same Octomore every time.
Yes, it varies from bottle to bottle.
So, Octomore 11.1 from the first and only UK distillery that has B Corp rating. What are your final thoughts, Mari?
I mean, it definitely, I will say I'm biased because like it is my favorite variety of scotch, but it's such a wonderful, wonderful little dram. It drinks very well. There's no drop of water necessary, although my next glass of it, I definitely will give that a go and see how it opens up. But it's so smooth, so earthy, so wonderful. It's definitely, something that sticks with you and you'll keep tasting for a while. It's delicious.
I love this. This is, I've only had another version of theirs. I think it was 10.3 or 10.1 or something like that. And this is my favorite scotch in the world. It's official. It is so complex. The smoke, for being so high, is so well integrated, and you still get all those delicate complexities that come out of this, those undertones of tropical fruit and the barrel and that mossy, mushroomy finish. The flavors just go on and on and on. And I'm going to be thinking about this for days after I've had it. It is that good. Hats off, guys. You continue to prove that you are the best Scotch distillery in the world, in my book.
Very talented folks over there, that's for sure.
So that was our review of Bruichladdich 11.1 Octomore. Thanks for filling in, Mari.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I wonder if any of the guys over at Bruichladdich have beards.
Well, it probably helps, right? If you catch, the nose right here, keeps it sticking
there
around.
You go. And if you get a little in the beard,
Right, and then
a
enhances
couple
the
letters.
whiskey experience.
The flavor saver.
I'm gonna pick up a mustache.